Hello and welcome to News Review on UNILAG TV. I am Eniola Onojuko. This past week, the federal government confirmed a new addition to Nigeria's senior secondary school curriculum, Mandarin Chinese. The announcement was made at the launch of a new Chinese corner in Abuja, where the FCT Education Secretary, Dr. Danlami Hayo, described Mandarin as a language of commerce and diplomacy, underscoring its strategic importance. Mandarin now joins French and Arabic as optional subjects in the senior secondary schools across the nation. Officials insist this is about preparing Nigerian students for global competitiveness in commerce, technology, and diplomacy. But the bigger question is this. China already finances our railways, they build our ports, and have poured billions into infrastructure. With Mandarin entering our classrooms, is this really about giving students a global edge, or another layer of soft power on the path of the Chinese government? A way for China to extend its influence into the next generation. That is our focus on News Review today. And joining us to unpack these issues is Dr. Adetoro Olaniyi Banwo, a lecturer in the Chinese Unit, Department of Linguistics, African and Asian Studies in the University of Lagos. Dr. Banwo, it's really nice to have you on the show today.
Thank you very much.
All right. So, Dr. Banwo, let's go into this. But before we go into the main issue, let us just know you a little bit. Concerning learning Chinese and the culture, what was the drive behind it? What really drove you into learning Chinese culture and the language in general?
Basically, the drive behind it was interest. It stemmed out of interest. My first contact with Chinese was at the Love Garden here at the University of Lagos. They were having a Chinese corner, and I had some interactions with them, and the interest just came out from there.
So was it out of academic curiosity or career opportunities?
It was out of curiosity, not even career. I never thought I would ever make a career out of Chinese. I was just curious about a new culture, and having watched a lot of movies about China, the society, Kung Fu, I was just curious to learn more and just to know them.
So you mentioned your first contact was at the Love Garden in the University of Lagos. So speaking about the University of Lagos, your students in your department, how have they been respondent, to learning the Mandarin language? How is it still a new territory for them, or they're responding properly to the language?
Our students are responding brilliant to the language, mostly because we have a partnership with Suzhou University, and then they get to do an immersion program. Initially it was 2 years, but right now it's 1 year. So they get to go to China to experience Chinese civilization, Chinese culture, and then they come back much better, well placed and positioned for the society.
Okay, so now let's move into the big issue at hand. So the federal government, they have made a decision to make Mandarin an optional language in the Nigerian curriculum. As an academic, from where you sit, how significant is this move to Nigerian education and nation at large?
From an academic position, I think it's a brilliant move, mainly because the act of learning a language not only positions you for the 21st century, but also gives you an advantage of learning a new skill. Mostly in recent years that we've had a large influx of Chinese coming into Nigeria due to both government policies, I think it's high time that Nigerian populace also acquire the skill of learning language. Specifically, over the years, we've always tilted to the West, learning French, German, and so on and so forth. As a rising global power, I think it's very imperative that we also learn Chinese language so that we can tap into those academic skills and culture from China, and we can also imbibe some civilizations.
All right, so you said something about tapping into the academic cultures and from China, the academic skills. So the Nigerian educational system has been known to be under some certain form of pressure, and people believe it's just for a matter of timing, right? So with the underfunding of staff, with the aging infrastructure that we sometimes face in the Nigerian educational system, Is introducing Mandarin practical at this point in time, or are we biting off more than we can chew as a nation?
I don't think we are biting off more than we can chew, mainly because the Chinese government, the Ministry of Education in China, the Chinese consulate in Lagos, the Chinese embassy, they are ready to support the teaching of Chinese in Nigeria. Likewise, also aging infrastructures. We are in the age of globalization and information technology. In fact, you don't actually need to come to a university to learn Chinese language. You can simply go on YouTube. You can go on Duolingo. We have a lot of apps, and you can learn it. So I think the society is ready. The people are ready, and I think it's a good time for us to start this.
All right, so moving away from the educational sector, let's move to the geopolitical layer. So now there has been a rising discussion of cultural imperialism. I mean, the Chinese already fund a whole lot in the Nigerian economy, from building our bridges to investing billions in infrastructure, right? So some people are even calling it soft power. Some critics believe this is soft power at play, right? So do we think this is simply about equipping the young Nigerians for the future, or is there an element of soft power, an element of influence at play on the part of the Chinese government in this?
I think first and foremost, we have to question the decision of the Minister of Education in Abuja in introducing Chinese globally. Was it sponsored by the Chinese government, or was it a Nigerian decision? I think these are things that we need to actually interrogate and understand clearly before we make judgments. Learning of Chinese definitely has an element of soft power, but the purpose of which the FCT minister in Abuja introduced Chinese is basically to allow students access to a new knowledge and a new culture. What they've done in Abuja is to set up a lot of Chinese classrooms. Now, by these Chinese classrooms, what they do there, I believe, is to allow the students experience something new, give them a taste of something different. You know, in these Chinese classrooms, what they usually do, or these Chinese corners, is that students get to not only speak the language, they sing songs, it's very interactive, they learn poems, they talk about Chinese philosophers, Chinese historians, and they try to make a comparative advantage between what exists in China and what exists in Nigeria. So it's not only about China when we talk about these classrooms, it's about both countries. So while they are talking about, take for instance, one of the great philosophers in China, Levi, then they can also talk about Wole Soyinka. When they are talking about Chinua Achebe, the great author in Nigeria, then they will talk about Lu Xun in China. So there's always a balance in the Chinese classrooms and those discussions that they are having.
So how would you personally respond to the people who worry that this may make Nigeria dependent on China?
Definitely, as a Nigerian myself, I would worry if my country is over-dependent on another country. I would worry about that. But currently, I don't see that we are totally dependent or fully dependent on Nigeria. Let's take, for instance, the airports that China has built through concessional loans and agreements. The Nigerian government, under the FAN authorities, have controls over these projects. They have controls over it. So you see, the agreement between China and Nigeria is irrevocable. It is revocable. Even though there are clauses under it, the Nigerian government have strong laws and regulations that can actually revoke these agreements. Oh, wow. So concerning the railways also, that we got through loans and agreements also, although there are timelines to these payments structures, definitely also the Nigerian government, I've met with a lot of ambassadors and diplomats, and this discussion usually comes up where we talk about the debt trap between China and Nigeria. But each time we come up with these discussions, they always say that there is always a clause in the agreement that people don't understand. There is a clause on the Nigerian side, there's a clause on the Chinese side. So these clauses can be invoked, definitely. If one side wants to oppress or wants to overtake, clauses will be invoked and then actions will be taken legally.
Oh, that's relatively new information.
Yes, it is.
All right. So now we know in Nigeria we've studied other languages, French, Arabic have been made optional, right? And they've brought certain benefits, religion and trade and diplomacy at large. So now, speaking of cultural imperialism, some people worry that these foreign languages are taking up space in our curriculum. So do you think introducing Mandarin is overshadowing our own linguistic culture and identity?
I would not say it's overshadowing. I would say it's complementary. Basically because over the years in our schools, in our environment, our mother tongue language has gained prominence. But of course, we're in a new century, a new decade, whereby people need to acquire more skills and then position themselves. Over the years, I remember myself also learning French for so many years in my primary school. When I finished learning French, I think I lost that skill immediately. I can't even, apart from the basics of bonjour, comment allez-vous, all those things, I lost it immediately. But I think the presence of the West and those languages that we have learnt then was not so effective. If we had a lot of French nationals and companies around, I'm sure a lot of people will still keep their French, apart from the French village that we have in Badagry. We have this here, and I think learning Chinese this time is complementary to our mother languages because people already have that in them already. As a Yoruba man, I can speak Yoruba, although I cannot speak pure Yoruba, but I have that in me. But of course, in learning Chinese, it will always reflect on your mother tongue. So what do I mean? As a Yoruba man, when I speak Chinese, I have my accent. And immediately I start learning Chinese, I start comparing it with what I know in Yoruba language. So the first time I started learning Chinese and I saw that Chinese has tones and ami. So the first thing that came to me was that, these people also have ami. The same ami we have in Yoruba language.
Wow.
So things like that will always come up. And then when we talk about learning Chinese language and culture, and then I learned about the concept of giving face in Chinese culture that they call mianzi. And then the next thing that popped out in my mind is, in Yoruba culture, we have Oju Lorowa, the concept of Oju, Wo Oju. They have it in Chinese also. So the moment you're learning this culture, consciously, you just pick it up like, we have these things, And then we talk about the golden rule in China. They say, love one another as I have loved you. Do unto others what you don't want to be done unto yourself. And then I just looked at, this is also in my culture. Not only my culture, it's in my religion also. So no matter how you learn this language, the interplay of your mother tongue would always come up.
All right. So you mentioned that your skills in French, that you basically abandoned it after secondary school, right?
Yes.
So now some argue that rather than adopting Mandarin, we should focus on strengthening our indigenous language or expanding the already existing French. I mean, considering our ECOWAS neighbors, most of them do speak French, right? So what is your take on that trade-off?
I agree that we should strengthen our mother language. I'm not totally against it. In fact, I feel that the Nigerian government should do more in the promotion of indigenous languages. We have a lot of them. Not only the major ones, we have a lot of them out there. The government should do more in promoting it. And then concerning our neighbors, yes, we have French neighbors. But of course, we also have to consider what is happening in those economies. If you go to Ghana, the presence of Chinese is overflowing there. Go to Ivory Coast, everywhere. So around us, we don't only have the French now. Around us, we have the French and the Chinese. They are everywhere. So if you want to do business and you want to be competitive in this society, I really think that Chinese is the way to go.
All right. But for strengthening our local languages, right, And do you believe that Nigeria could pursue both, strengthen our local languages and adding foreign ones, or do we risk spreading too thin?
I think Nigeria can pursue both. We have the finances, we have the resources. We have a lot of manpower, personnel that handle all these local languages. So I think we can pursue both. There's nothing saying we cannot pursue both, because if we actually pursue both, then our nation would also benefit as a rising power. You know, this language is a tool of communication. And I must tell you that also in China, because I've done a lot of research also. In China, they are learning Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa. Yes, I actually did a research, and I wrote a book, and I edited a book, you know, translating Chinese into Yoruba. So what are we saying? Why are the Chinese learning Yoruba? That's another question. Why are they learning Hausa? Why are they learning Igbo? So why did we learn French? It's because we need to position ourselves. And if over the years we've learned French for a long time and it's still in our curriculum, and Arabic, I think we need to bring something new to the table.
So speaking of something new, not everybody's going to embrace it. Not everybody's going to embrace it openly. But for students that are open to learning Mandarin, that are open to embracing this new language, what opportunities realistically could you see them having in 10 to 20 years from now?
Realistically, they have a lot of golden opportunities.
You know, I'm talking academic, business, policy, global.
In all areas. Let me break it down. First and foremost, one of the countries that give the highest number of scholarship in Nigeria today is the Chinese. Yes, the Chinese government. And what the federal government is just doing, Lagos State government has done it before. Lagos State government actually started it. And surprisingly, we have public schools in Lagos State learning Chinese.
Oh.
Yes, look, you can check up the facts. So what I'm saying is that, how does it position them? The moment you finish learning Chinese and you get the proficiency, simply apply for your scholarships. We have the government scholarships offered by the Chinese government. We have the provisional scholarship offered by each province. We have the presidential scholarship offered by the presidents of different universities. We have the Belt and Road Initiative Scholarship offered by BRI. We have a lot of scholarships that our students can key into. That is one benefit. The other benefit is that in recent years, especially in Nigeria, that we have seen a lot of influx of Chinese enterprises. Now, these students, the moment they finish learning or they attain a certain level of proficiency, then we see them doing a lot of translation works, a lot of interpretation works, or some of them even become HR managers or general managers. On the other hand, is what is happening recently between China and Nigeria is that with students acquiring language, we've now developed an element of trust between both parties. And what do I mean? A lot of Chinese companies, they sit in China and they invest in Nigerians that have the proficiency of the language. They set up the companies for them and then they run it while they are in China. That is happening currently. So a lot of small, medium enterprises are springing up because of this proficiency in languages, and these are engines of economic growth.
So you just spoken a lot about the benefits, right? So as somebody who teaches Chinese every day in Nigeria, right, what would you want the policymakers and the general public at large, because not everybody is open to this idea and this new policy. So what would you want the general public at large and the policymakers to better understand about these new policies, you know, the values and the limits of this new policy in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I think the government should not only go beyond making the announcement that Chinese has been added to the curriculum. I think they should also offer more insights on the benefits and how this would actually be played out. Now, on the other hand, I feel that Nigerians, we all have biases and prejudice. It's in every culture. The concept of cultural strength. Yes, one culture looking superior over another culture, or one culture being threatened by another culture. I think it's very imperative that we try to put down our biases and objectively look at what the Chinese is doing around us. If we look at, take for instance, we look at the Chinese consulate projects in Lagos of not only supporting primary schools, middle school students, the less privileged. We look at competitions that are coming up and you see these youths speaking Chinese. I mean, you'll be shocked. And not only about them speaking Chinese, it's the mere fact that they've actually put in that effort and interest to get those skills and to compete globally. Now, last year, a lot of on a yearly basis, a lot of Chinese competitions go on. And when Nigerians partake in it, I mean, we do very well. If we don't come first, we come second. If we don't come second, we do come third.
Chinese competitions in-house.
Yes, yes. A lot of Chinese competitions. So a lot of schools participate, and then you are surprised and amazed that, oh, these students or these people have attained such level of proficiencies, and the ability for you to actually learn and speak, not only learn and speak, but actually to be able to display it confidently, shows that you have an edge over others. It's very basic because it puts in a lot of effort in you and a lot of training. I think in this century, we look around us, a lot of developments have happened through the Chinese government. A lot of Chinese enterprises are here. A lot of opportunities exist if you learn Chinese. In fact, if you don't even learn Chinese and you want to go and study in China, the scholarships are available. But there's a but there. The but is that when you get to China, you have to learn Chinese for 1 year because you cannot survive in that environment without learning the language. Because I would still say that China itself, not everybody there can speak English. But there are some regions that you go to, some areas you go to in China, and everybody's speaking English. You go to Shanghai, you go to Guangzhou, you go to Shenzhen, you go to Beijing. Most people there are speaking English. But once you go to the inner cities, then you have problems of communication. I think the opportunities are there. We should be objective in our judgments. I'm not saying that the Chinese are perfect. Definitely. I'm not saying that they are 100% perfect or our relationship is very, very fine. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that there are a lot of benefits from this relationship that Nigerians need to be conscious of and they should pay attention to.
You mentioned that you're saying Chinese are perfect, right? So do you see any foreseen limits in this new policy? Any for the future, any limits at all in this new policy that could affect the country?
The limits right now is just that I would say that the government, the federal government needs to be proactive in this policy. It's not just making an announcement and throwing it at the people. They need to actually explain more and discuss it. You know, what we're having now is very good for the public. They need to actually have these discourses and then let people open their minds and listen to what Chinese language is bringing to the Nigerian nation.
That's very wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Banwo, for this insightful conversation. You've really helped to open our minds into things that we weren't really aware of concerning the relationship between Nigeria and Chinese governments before. All right. So Mandarin is now a part of Nigerian school curriculum. Is it a smart step for global opportunities for Nigerians, or is it China's soft power at work? Time will tell how this policy shapes the next generation. That's where we'll leave it on the news review today. A big thank you to our guest, Dr. Adetoro Olaniyi Banwo of the Chinese department here at the University of Lagos for sharing those insights. Do share your thoughts with us in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more conversations on the issues shaping our world. Thank you for watching. I am Eniola Onojuku. Bye for now.